Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. If you like the video today, please come in and share it. We'll surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards Football. Special thanks to my producer, Mr. Logan Landis, for making it happen today. I'm your host, Vincent Turner, and today our videos on our 2024 NFL Draft prospect, Joe Milton, quarterback out of the University of Tennessee. And joining me to talk about this outstanding football player out of the University of Tennessee, you don't need to know him. The guy's blowing up on the internet. He's a big time NFL draft guru on social media. He has one of the outstanding websites, firstroundmark.com. And he's coming to us live out of Key West, Florida, former scout of the New York Jets, doing his time with Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells, the very talented Mr. Daniel Kelly by way of Minneapolis, Minnesota. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you, Mr. Turner. That's a heck of an intro from, let me see, Minnesota to New York. I've lived in Arizona, and now I'm in Key West, Florida. I'm covering just about every point of the country. Like I'm going to next, I probably have to try to go up to Seattle or something. But I'm doing well, thank you. And I'm getting excited because draft day, it's draft season. It's an exciting time because it gives all NFL fans hope. And that's what I love most about it.
Yes, sir. Well, let's get right to the point today. Let's talk about a gentleman that played for my home state. I'm out of Memphis, Tennessee. Joe Milton, the quarterback out of the University of Tennessee. Give us your opinion and where he's going to go in the draft.
Absolutely. There he is, number 7 on your screen. And little disclaimer, I really like Joe Milton III, known as JM3. That's his nickname. And I've evaluated every single snap of Joe Milton III in 2023, 4 games prior as well evaluated in 2021 and 2022, 16 games total. I have put him under the microscope. And let me start by saying he is the hardest evaluation I've ever done. That's a mouthful, but he's the hardest one I've ever done. Joe Milton III is this year's draft's Powerball ticket. I mean, this guy is he makes Joe Milton III makes Anthony Richardson last year's first. He makes Anthony Richardson look like he came out of a Happy Meal as a Happy Meal toy. That's the kind of arm strength he has. At the flick of a wrist, 90 yards. He's got a bazooka for a right arm. 6'5", 235 pounds. Clocked at 21.3 miles per hour versus UTSA. Flicks just like moves around the pocket like pass rushers are flies in the pocket, right? Like in the kitchen, like just get out of here, get away from me. That's the way he looks in the pocket. He's practically almost like a mythical. Like I can't wait for his pro day because if they went crazy for Anthony Richardson last year when he hit the roof, they're going to go berserk. They're going to break the app, as they say, when Joe Milton III gets a chance to go into his pro day. The interesting thing is perception. Richardson, the national media got behind him, blew him up, and away he went. It's interesting when you compare, though, the numbers between Joe Milton III and Anthony Richardson. Both, of course, played in the SEC East. Richardson playing for the Florida Gators, Milton playing for the Tennessee Volunteers. And check this out, everybody who's listening. Turn up the volume on this one. Milton had a better completion rate than Anthony Richardson, 64.7% versus 53.8%. Joe Milton III had more touchdowns than Anthony Richardson, 20 versus 17, and less interceptions, 5 versus 7. And then now also check this out. Joe Milton III, we talk about time to throw as being one of the big things to check off on the list as far as checking the boxes. Joe Milton III, 2.64 seconds time to throw in this last season in 2023. And that's a faster time to throw than NFL 6th-ranked Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford, who checked it at 2.68 seconds time to throw, according to Next Gen Stats. Of course, I know that it's an apples to oranges comparison because we're looking at college versus the NFL. But it is kind of interesting. It is kind of telling. And it's also a reason why Joe Milton III, JM3, only took 16 sacks in 12 games in 2023. A lot of people sleeping on Big Joe. That's what I think. As being a former NFL scout, he's to me, he may be the most dominant personality, alpha male personality on any football field at any given time. He's also has a magnetic smile, an infectious personality, and a very mature disposition on game film. Said another way, and you'll appreciate this, Mr. Turner, he's got star power. That's another way of saying that. There's a perception out there he's just another pretty face with a big arm who can't aim, but that's where teams are going to miss on Joe Milton III if they do not turn on the tape and do the work on this guy. I look at college quarterbacks I've talked about many times previously with NFL colored glasses. A lot of times great college quarterbacks don't translate to great NFL quarterbacks. I'm looking for certain characteristics. Things like time to throw we just covered. I'm looking at going through progressions. Is he moving his head? Is he looking around? Or is he just doing the one read lock in with the receiver and hard staring him like two people at a bar? Is he standing back there? How's the ball placement downfield? Not completion percentage, but how's the placement? Is he putting the ball where the ball needs to be, where the receiver can just run through the catch and go? Ball security. Is he protecting the football, not just in the way of interceptions, but also PBUs, breakups? How are teammates responding to him? How's he, what's his composure? What's his social media look like? What's he saying to in the press conferences? All things that project to the National Football League. And with Milton, he's been subtly developing on film over the last, 2021 in Michigan, 2022 and 2023 at Tennessee. Of course, he didn't get a chance to play a lot in 2022 because he was behind Hendon Hooker, who ended up with the Detroit Lions, who are playing this weekend. But Milton does have traits that transfer very well to the National Football League. This guy is fluid, moving around the pocket. He shows he can maintain and keep eyes downfield, as television announcers like to talk about, even under pressure. Eyes downfield, very critically important. Doesn't get spooked by the pass rush, very important. Often goes through his progressions. Dominant pocket presence. I can't stress this enough. He's like a Mortal Kombat, like a fictional character in the pocket. He's just dominant presence in the pocket. And again, a quick time to throw, especially for a big man. Quick time to throw, we all expect it from guys, Tua Tagovailoa, or these different players around the league. But at 6'5", 235 pounds, to have that kind of time to release that's faster than Matthew Stafford is really impressive to me for his size, especially. And the guy can drive the football down the field with authority. That's a big one for me as well. Best in the short range, okay, intermediate, and decent deep. In these ways, and this is going to be one that's going to take people back. But in a lot of ways, I liken him when I watched Trevor Lawrence coming out of Clemson. I liken him to Lawrence. They have similar size, and both threw a ton of short passes. Of course, Trevor Lawrence threw, I think he had the most short passes of anyone in the 2021 draft class, if I recall correctly. And of course, Milton throws a lot of short passes as well, if you turn on the tape when he's at Tennessee. The biggest difference between, before we get too excited, Trevor Lawrence and Joe Milton III, the biggest difference is the deep accuracy. Trevor Lawrence was said to have 51% accuracy deep. Joe Milton III there on your screen, 32%. I charted 9 out of 28 completions deep. And of course, Milton showed, I think it was the Alabama game, and he showed other times too with a stiff arm, that he can absolutely run over defenders like a truck running over a tin can. This guy can roll when he gets rolling, and he's got that big body, that sturdy frame. He's not one of these guys that that can't take physical contact. To me, he needs to go to an NFL team that's committed to the deep passing game. The negatives, sure, there's negatives, absolutely. And I talk like I talk if I was talking to NFL Worm Room with GMs and scouts and coaches and even the owner in the room. The negatives of Milton, inconsistent rhythm and tempo. The tempo is very important from a quarterback standpoint. Quarterbacks like the drummers of the band, which I pointed out in previous shows. Unsettled footwork. Big Joe's got to get those feet under control. More accurate moving around, I feel, with a moving pocket and traditional setup in the pocket. His left leg does tend to lock up on him when he releases the ball into the intermediate route levels. When I say intermediate, I mean 11 to 19 yards the route level, which naturally causes the ball to sail on him, and he can overthrow it deep and lacks finesse. And you see, because the thing of it is his size, right? He's 6'5", so he has a very high level, tall, release point from the ball. So his left leg locks up too, which causes the trajectory of the ball to sail or to overthrow it at times. And really, truly, I'll conclude with this. Joe Milton III will be absolutely positively perfect in an offensive system featuring a moving pocket, because he's good on the move, and a deep ball. I think there's only 1.6% of NFL draft platforms right now that have a first round grade on Big Joe. I do have a first round grade on Joe Milton III. He is my QB3 in the 2024 NFL draft. It's a calculated leap of faith, but my word, when you look at him on film, it's just there's a lot to love about Joe Milton III. Your thoughts on the big guy, Mr. Turner?
I'm gonna say this. Mr. Milton went to the University of Tennessee. State I'm born in Memphis. I've been a UT fan since 1968. Several guys came out of my neighborhood, South Memphis today. I give shout out to South Memphis, down there in Memphis, Tennessee. Carlton Peoples, Mark Studaway, Brian Ingram, several other guys who went to Tennessee. So I'm very, very close to this program. I used to listen to the great John Ward doing football games. And I was very proud that Mr. Milton played at the University of Tennessee. But I hate to say this, and I want to say this, and I got to be honest. That's the only way I can do this on 100 Yards Football. I look at Mr. Milton's career coming out of the state of Florida. He was highly recruited. He went to Michigan. He couldn't beat out Cade McNair for the starting job, so he ended up having to transfer to the University of Tennessee. He started the first couple of games his first season in Tennessee, and he lost the job to Hendon Hooker. Then came back, outstanding teammate. Heard nothing but great things about him. Then he got his chance this year. I'm going to start with his arm. Watching him throw the football, as you just mentioned, Mr. Kelly, is a thing of beauty. I haven't seen a lot of people throw the football like him that's ever came in the National Football League or ever on the national level. When I look at his arm strength and I look how he throws the ball and I look at it coming off his hands like a bazooka, I got to think about the great Joe Gilliam that played with the Pittsburgh Steelers by way of Tennessee State. The great Polish rifle out of Buffalo, New York, Ron Jaworski. Another gentleman out of Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, Joe Namath. And, of course, the young man out of California, John Elway. And it might be some more. Norm Van Brocklin, that played back in the day for the L.A. Rams, became a head coach in the National Football League. And Dale LaMonica, that played with the Oakland Raiders by way of Notre Dame. Them the few guys I've seen that's got that legitimate arm strength, that's power, can throw the football some 70 yards in the air, 80 yards in the air on the dime. But the concerns I have, Mr. Milton, even with his journey through Michigan and through Tennessee, it's no question about it, he's got first-round talent, but he was inconsistent. This year at Tennessee, when he was his job, he only completed 28% of his yards over 20 yards thrown. That's a concern to me playing at the next level. Then I go back and I look at the game film against Florida. When Tennessee came ranked in that game, number 7 in the country, he struggled that evening. Tennessee ended up losing that game. But he sold me back against Alabama. I thought he played well enough. Actually, I thought he outplayed Jalen Merrill that day. It's just unfortunately Tennessee didn't win the football game. And then going head up against a gentleman down here who's an outstanding football player at the quarterback position, Carson Beck, that played against Georgia. He didn't play well that game. That being said, everything you just said, DK, He's got all the abilities to be a first-round pick and be a star at the next level. But I have concerns about him being consistent day in and day out. And you know, in this game, you the quarterback guru, you the guy that I look at. And the main pet peeve you always tell me, you being an NFL scout at his highest level, what do we talk about when I talk to you off air? You always say, VT, it's about being consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to sit up here and be all happy about Joe Milton. Of course, I love to see him be great in NFL. Tennessee, baby, come to Holloway, Peyton Manning, T. Martin. I would love for him to take the legacy on to the league. But those concerns, I think for him, me personally, in my final words, in his college career, he hasn't been consistent week in and week out.
No, that's interesting. You talk about consistency because that's definitely the key. And that's what made him the hardest evaluation I've ever done. Like I touched at the top of the show, was that it's a very subtle process when I watched all the games. And at times it's like he just kind of comes along little by little, because I take this very seriously, because my end game is to be back in the National Football League. That's where I want to go with this. I'm not doing this thing for clicks with my website or writing different publications I write for. I'm not doing it for clicks, and I'm not doing hot takes for the fun of it. So when I put my name on a guy who only 1.6% of the NFL draft community sees as a first-round pick, it's a huge gamble for me, because what I'll hear about for the next 5 years, if it doesn't work out, is people will spray paint my Twitter account with Joe Milton and all the remarks I made about him. So my credibility is on the line with this, and that's why I evaluate quarterbacks. That's all I write for Yardbarker is quarterbacks. I've looked at a lot of different quarterbacks, and like you talked about, and so when I took a kind of a leap here, it's a calculated leap of faith by putting a first-round grade on Milton, because you're right, there are inconsistencies that have shown up. But in the right situation, when I close my eyes, all I can see Joe Milton III with is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it happened to me with the Patriots, with Mac Jones. It happens to me sometimes before the draft where I'll just close my eyes and I'll see the team that this guy fits best with. And to me, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had Big Ben. Now they can have Big Joe. But you have to build the right kind of offense around him, as you've alluded to, Mr. Turner. It needs to be an offense that basically has, that really is a moving pocket, kind of gets him outside where he can dictate more the defense as opposed to sitting traditionally in the pocket. And he's a guy who can run, and he's a guy that can throw, and he can throw far. And one of two things are going to happen in those situations: pass interference calls, touchdowns, or incompletions are about the only options there. And I think he'll draw a lot of both touchdowns and pass interference calls if he launches it deep. To me, this is a very interesting prospect, and it's very interesting to me that the world went absolutely berserk for Trevor Lawrence and they hardly say a word about Joe Milton III. And to me, it's like the perception, the media, and what they're painting out there. Because really, I did Trevor Lawrence. I evaluate Trevor Lawrence. I put a first-round grade on Trevor Lawrence, and also a 90% bust rate, because he struggled greatly at the intermediate route level at Clemson. He needed receivers to basically stand there and wait for the ball a lot of times. I was concerned about him throwing timing routes, if I recall. And the deep ball was there, the short ball was there, but it's about the same size. And we've seen what's happened to Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is 20-30 as a starter, down there. But Trevor Lawrence did have something, and he had a pretty fast release. He still does at 2.51 seconds, I believe, in next-gen stats, Trevor Lawrence. And this guy, Milton, checks in at 2.64. To me, that's the name of the game. Get rid of the ball quickly. And if they build the right system around him, and they have a couple receivers who can get some yakety-yak yards after the catch, he can be very, very dangerous in the National Football League. But to your point again, you do need to build the right system around Joe Milton III. And I tell you what, his traits, I mean, he's like a cartoon character.
Final words about Joe Milton. For him to be a star at the next level, as I said before, he has first-round talent. I just think he got to be consistent as a football player. And you mentioned the main important point here, Mr. DK. He has to be in the right system. But as far as the arm talent, I love to see him throw the football. It brings you back to the days of watching a young man up on the hill in Nashville, Tennessee, Mr. Joe Gilliam, when he was throwing the ball for Tennessee State and when he came into the league with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Final words about Joe Milton, quarterback out of the University of Tennessee.
Well, the most encouraging part to me, bottom line, is this. Bill Belichick always said we're in a bottom line business. The most encouraging part to me is I have seen Scott Pioli, who is my boss at the Jets in the pro scouting department. His scouting system, his grading system, either had an arrow going up, an arrow going down, or arrow going sideways for ascending, descending, or going sideways, staying the same. To me, the most encouraging part about Joe Milton III, as far as an NFL projection, and I would go into an interview in the NFL and say this. The most impressive thing to me is the entire time I have evaluated him, it's always been an arrow going up with Joe Milton III. He's always showing subtle improvements, which tells me with the head he has on his shoulders, he will continue to develop and catch up with the rest of his physical attributes.
If you like the video today, please come in and share it. We surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards Football. Special thanks to the man of the hour, the most talented guy covering the NFL draft, Mr. Daniel Kelly. And special thanks to our producer, Mr. Logan Landers, for making it happen today here on 100 Yards Football. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. Be blessed.